Thank you for tuning in to Andronetalks Radio, gathering as one in our sovereign truth from a galactic perspective, exploring our world with new ideas, knowledge, and a promise of a better future. Galactic discussions for galactic-minded people. Andronetalks.
But I'm going to start off by explaining my experience since I've been doing radio and podcasting and what has been happening from my perspective.
Okay.
To deal with that woman that was trolling us, earlier. Okay. So in 2015, I started doing the Andronetalks transmissions on Wolf Spirit Radio. And there were a group of people that had a bunch of charts and guidelines and all sorts of material. And when they saw my information, some of them, just like a handful of them, were insisting that I change the narrative to fit into that belief system. So this is the first point that I have about what's been going on. So starting in 2015, when I did the Andronetalks transmissions, listeners, saw that there was some general crossover in some of the narrative, and so they automatically assumed that this is the story that they were already embracing. It's someone else's information. And I didn't understand what that was, but for some reason, people want something to all fit into one group or one narrative. And so they try to pull things together. And if they kind of like what you're doing, then they want to insert it in and make it as one, but it's not. It's unrelated. What that does is you're taking someone's clear thought on a topic or on a storyline or a narrative, however you want to word that, and then you're taking that and then trying to fit it together as a puzzle, piecing it together with a little bit of this, a little bit of that. In some cases, like if someone wanted to merge some of the information with a religion, even like the law of one is considered like a belief system, and with something that might be news, and then try to put that together, and it doesn't work. First thing that it does, it dilutes the original message. The other part is it's plagiarism, because you're taking that information, changing the meaning, and then inserting it into something else, and then doing that with multiple sources. And so then you're essentially using other people's information, and it dilutes the original message of everything, and then claiming that as your narrative, which is unethical on many levels, right?
This is true.
So that's the biggest problem in something that I'm finding is happening, especially new people coming out, and maybe they have a story, but they don't think it's interesting enough. So then they start telling everyone what they believe regarding someone else's work, and then pulling it all together in that way. And it's not ethical. It's not correct. It's plagiarism. It's dishonest on a lot of levels. And it really is taking away from the many different areas of thought that should be, held together by itself, so people can take a look at it, understand it, and then see it as its own component. It's not to be amalgamized into or homogenized into something else that doesn't really become anything cohesive. And then What I think is, whether people realize it or not, it's to essentially water down everything so it has very little meaning in the end. Whether that's the original intention or not, it could be. Some people are angry that there are separate thoughts outside of their original belief system, whether it's one of the primary religions or it's one of these fringe belief systems. Okay?
Okay, that is true. You're right on point with that.
So that's the part I think in general people need to pull away from. There are people that I think are getting paid to do this, to ruin and destroy those that are putting out certain messages and then putting other pieces into it and then saying, hey, see that they're false, or that information is inaccurate, but they didn't portray it correctly. And that's a way to kind of filter out and say, if you don't like something, we're going to figure out how to do that. And it's kind of a type of trolling where, you're deciding who you think should exist and who shouldn't exist, and playing in some kind of role, like a godlike role of deciding who should have a voice or not. Now, we know that there are certain governments that disallow certain types of conversations. So that's called censorship, right? This is another type of censorship. It's a censorship on a personal level where they feel like this is offensive to them and they feel like that origin of content should not exist anymore, so that they turn it into something else. So that's another point. People that try to mix religious beliefs into and theories into something that's news, and that doesn't necessarily all work together. So, for example, when I started working doing the Andronetalks transmissions, this is channeled information from another other time, space, reality. When I started working with the ACIO, it's generally news-based content. So it's not just fantasy, but information. I'm not saying that the Andronetalks transmissions was fantasy, but I'm saying that it is a different type of information, a storyline, the way someone might perceive an ancient history, right? Ancient history has one perspective. There may be other pieces to it, but other people don't have to decide it. They can't necessarily decide which other pieces go to it or whatever other perspective. You might see a subtle crossover in that area. But when you're working with the ACIO, it is distinctly information from the ACIO only.
Okay.
That means that it's their news. Bottom line, that's it. It's not mixed with anything else. So when an individual gets a personal session with Peter the Insider, not with myself in particular, because I'm doing Akashic record information, but when a person works with Peter the Insider, he gives them specific information. That information should not be mixed with other theories or belief systems of people claiming to be psychic, intuitive, and so forth. If they're picking up certain impressions, that should not be connected at all to the ACIO. It's a separate, completely separate entity, not related to us. We will not support it. We will not say that they're a part of the ACIO because they felt like they saw something regarding Peter, or they thought that Peter was involved in something. The other part is Peter does not and never has been involved with my labs. He does not take anyone anywhere. He does not put them in abusive situations. And even though he talks about these things, it doesn't mean that he is active and a creator of any of these things. So it's shooting the messenger. That's the challenge of presenting information that people don't fully understand, or it's kind of difficult information to take in. So because of triggers and trauma, they then invert that into that he's actually doing it because he knows about it. And that's an assumption. In my opinion, in my experience with Peter, Peter himself has been in these situations and he's very much against it. And Peter has rescued people out of these situations, which we have a record of. That's where the Merge come in. That's the Monarch Umbrella Refugee Group. And he, as well as Lincoln Clay, had rescued them and some of the other team members. So pulled people out of these type of situations. So that's another issue that we've been challenged with. So they're getting back to the ACIO. Let's talk briefly about the ACIO. The ACIO is not here to harm anyone. We are here to just provide information. I'm going to talk briefly about myself as an interdimensional seer. As an interdimensional seer, I can see further out and deeper than most people are able to do. So that's why I've been pulled into the ACIO to assist with the greater issues of the planet. That doesn't make me any better than anyone else. It doesn't make me any worse than anyone else. It just means that this is a role that I've stepped into of my own time, of my own free will, to assist with the abilities that I have at hand. I'm not saying anyone else doesn't have any abilities. It has nothing to do with that. And I'm not bragging. There's nothing to brag about. This is a lot of work. And it's taken up a lot of my life, recently. So I just want to clarify that point. Because of that, and because I can see in a deeper interdimensional space, and I can see further out in time, space, timelines, parallels, hidden spaces, and all that, I'm able to assist in that way. Recently, we came to a difficult point where we had to present information that was difficult for people to hear. They didn't comprehend and got triggered and reacted very badly to the information with the assumption that we were acting in bad behavior and judging others, fabricating information, and so forth. And if a person listened a little deeper or they understood a little bit of our work, they would know that this information had to come out for a higher good. Essentially, that not to critique or judge the individual, I believe, in my own personal belief system, and that might not carry over into what the other individual believes in, that we are the ones that make a decision what we do, what we don't do with information. Because our situation is not typical, it's causing anomalies in the veil, as some people know the term the veil. There's a bleed through of time space anomalies, other realities, and in those realities there are many existences, and we as individuals exist in other places in different times. And so there's that bleed through that you mentioned earlier in the article. What happens is, because of CERN creating these tears in our reality and these experiments, and they're not the only ones, there's others that are even doing spiritual work, maybe to become famous, to take control of the earth. There's a lot of different agendas that are happening now. There's a lot of dark energies that are entities also that are coming through and influencing people. And so that kind of thing needs to be revealed at times. This is not for everyone, and not everyone understands this fully. Spiritual people that have been doing this work and have a sense of, especially working with the paranormal and understanding that there's levels of consciousness that exist above and beyond our present existence. And so it's beyond that where something needs to happen. So when you have a bleed through where one individual is impacting millions in another reality, and then it could impact millions here, that requires a discussion and an action, but the individual is not open to us or the comments of things that we're saying, and we understand that. Not everyone is going to be in agreement. And maybe not maybe, I'm sure our approach was not probably the best, but in dire situations, there are dire ways of doing things. And so at the present time, we needed immediate action and things needed to happen. And I think people are beginning to understand that I can try to judge other people, but in essence, we all judge ourselves. And as I said, I am no greater than anyone else, and nobody is any greater than me, and vice versa. I think we're all on an equal level of a sense of personal responsibility of what we bring in. When an individual impacts a larger scale, that's when they get noticed, and that's when they get pulled into a focal point of attention. And so I do ask that if that happens in the future with others, that people will be open to have discussions with us and try to remediate the problems, as opposed to making it public with the public not necessarily understanding fully. And that is where it led to many problems. We're trying to figure out different ways to get people's attention who will not generally respond to us. We are not the gatekeepers, but if someone sees that a building's on fire and does nothing, then there is a level of responsibility there, and that's how we perceive it. It's like if a person had the opportunity to prevent 9/11, how many people would have done that? I'm sure there were many. And it's essentially the same idea, even at the expense of possibly getting in trouble. These days, many people are taking actions and doing what they feel is the right thing to do, even though maybe the method is not right. But in the end, ultimately, if people understand it's for the greater good of humanity, and maybe we can get somewhere, and maybe we can make the world a better place, because we're heading in the wrong direction with all of these bleed throughs. They're causing anomalies in many different areas, and we appreciate when people come forward and are willing to do that work. As I said, many of us have entanglements. It's a form of quantum entanglement, so you're connected to yourself in all these different areas, but it wasn't until we started tampering with our context of existence that we started creating all of these anomalies. So instead of we can blame this one or that one, and at this point, I think the best thing to do is to do our best to prevent anything worse from happening. And Peter and the team typically will go to those locations to look deeper into the future and see where we're headed and report back to us. If people understand the role of the ACIO, you may agree or disagree with the ACIO, but it's really a news source. And that's what's kept us going and opening it up to the public. There are people that completely want us to be gone. Peter said if he reveals who he is, then those in the higher levels of authority, if they see him, everything will be cut off. And so for that reason, certain individuals would like him to reveal himself to disallow any of this information from coming through anymore. They say it's under the guise of, they feel like he's not being honest, or that even accusing him of being creepy, even though I don't know if he's that, thousands of miles away. I don't know what you're worried about the person's going to do. They're 1,000 miles away. So I'm suspicious, especially people that have known about him for a long time. To make any claims like that at this point doesn't make any sense to me. Other than they want him to be shut down, and they don't want those of us who really do want to know the future, really do want to be prepared for a shift, how the timeline's headed. Then to us, it's very important, and I appreciate that those who do care would back us and support that we want to continue on with this information, but other people have to step forward and also say that they don't want it shut down. So I'm just going to open it up to questions that you might have right now.
Well, I agree with you about Peter showing his face, because I know Gene Decode does not show his face.
That's right.
And he puts out the information. People watch him. They line up. They share his videos, and they, in fact, love him. So this is a person who doesn't show their face, and they're putting out information. It's the same thing that Peter is doing. So I think there is a faction that is present that wants to usurp the ACIO's information, or do what they can to put people against the information that they're putting out. That's what I think, or what I see.
Yeah, I mean, there's multi-levels of this. There are these groups like the Shadow Group who would like us to stop talking. They can use or influence those to come after us, or even send those to troll us and to create problems, or to just make us appear to be not legitimate, even though Peter has repeatedly proven that he predicted certain things that came true. Unlike a lot of groups that, have not been able to prove that, but people just feel like they're more reliable, or they like them for whatever reason. We know that there is an overlaying energy there that wants us to be stifled. Peter does have a security clearance. He does have a strong military affiliation, a much higher level than others. And that also contributes to access to the information that he has. We don't object if people want to put out information. We don't object to that. But if people are trying, I wouldn't be surprised if people wanted us to be pulled off so that they can come back and say that they're working with us, even though they're not. And that is something that people need to watch out for, because there are people already that are saying that they work for us, and we've said it multiple times that they're not working for us, and yet they continue to state that they're working for us. And I shouldn't have to be in a situation where I'm constantly saying, no, that individual, I've said it maybe 5-10 times publicly, and still there is this weird attitude of that I'm hiding something. And people that have known me for years know I'm pretty straightforward about who I am, where I'm from. And if I say that I've been somewhere, I can prove it. If I say that I've done something, I can prove it. If I say that what Peter said is going to come true, I can prove it. So I don't really know exactly where this is. We know that it's coming from, a higher level, but there's also those that are just in an arena of competitiveness, which I don't feel at this time, when the earth is in a place of war and all of these problems, it's not the time to be competitive. It's actually really, really selfish and very, very destructive. And those people should take note of those individuals who are trying to compete in this time. If they're not contributing anything of meaning or purpose, if they're claiming certain things that never come true, and then they're trying to destroy us in the process, you really need to take note of what's going on. And there's nothing more we can do beyond that.
With the ACIO's website, it has a plethora of information, and it has been instrumental in explaining the programs, the military ops, the Lincoln Clay unit. It explains all that so people have an understanding, has the history of these programs, and people use this information to understand what's going on in these programs that they get abducted in, or they sign contracts to be in, or whatever the reason they're dragged into these. They can understand what these programs are and the different levels that are in it. So I think that once the website came on with all this information, there are people have been trying to claim it. And that's, to me, that's what people do. You know, when new things come out, they try to claim it, they try to get a foothold in it. They want to attach themselves to things that are positive, that's helping people, because it shines a light and makes them look good. But I know with the information on the ACIO, it's not a problem with using the information. Just say, this information is cited from the ACIO, and this is where I got it from. And it will help you to understand what's going on with you or the programs. And they're in a place to help humanity, because that's what I see. But people are drawn into these little groups where they have conversations, and they start confirming each other's the things that they're what is the word I'm looking for? Whatever happened to them in one program, they start confirming each other. Well, yes, I saw you there, and you were doing this with me. And now that story gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now they're confirming each other, and there's no I have to say there's no way that they can confirm all the things that they're saying, because the ACIO and Peter has their SSP, Secret Space Program information, their files. And that is the confirmation that it tells the program. He has this information, but people are not in a position to be able to accept this information as it is. Whatever some that he has told the information to, they have expounded on it and added things from maybe their dreams and visions or something someone told them or confirmed them. And now whatever Peter told them does not look like, it's a different story that they're telling the masses, so to speak.
Yes, but then they're putting Peter's name on it.
Correct. And that's
so, and it's really simple, right? You know, so they say, this is what Peter said. And then beyond that, I started seeing certain things, and I don't have a confirmation from Peter on that, but I believe this is true. And that's another way that can be done, not coupling everything in. I mean, if an individual tells you something, but you want them to validate maybe other psychics or friends of yours, and we even have people kind of trying to push us to agree to a narrative that is nowhere in the records. So, and it doesn't mean that maybe you had some experiences, maybe there were some other things that are not related to the ACIO, and that's completely fine. Just don't add don't put Peter's name on it. And that's where people are having a hard time, like, well, Peter, you said this, and this, and no, he didn't say that. It doesn't help anything.
right.
It actually harms the information. People start to get confused about what he originally said, which I I really encourage people to record the exact information that Peter gave them. Peter does not have time to spend with most people, hours and hours and hours of time to go through everything. And some people have less information than others. Why? I don't know. I mean, it is, like I said, this is not like some kind of cookie cutter program where you just like everybody is the same. Not everyone's the same. Not everyone went to the same place. Not everyone had these exact same experiments or experiences. Some people go back thousands of years. Some people don't. And, you know, you can't just look at an individual and know immediately everything that they've been through. And some people who you at least expect had a very full, active experience with the SSP. But then if they start to dilute it with other perceptions of people, maybe they're trying to befriend that individual. They're trying to say that they're psychic and they could provide more information. Because a lot of people, it doesn't matter how much information you give an individual, they always feel like, it seems like they always feel like they want more.
That's true.
And that alone is something you need, individuals need to think about too, because all the information that was given it's loaded with just one piece of it. You were involved in this program. That probably has quite a bit of information alone. But people are looking for shortcuts. They're also looking to get a name for themselves, to have some sort of notoriety, to fit in because they kind of like the group and they want to be a part of this. They feel like this is exciting, or they feel like they belong here. They feel like they're intuitive and they're learning and they're trying to understand this. And for us who've been around for a while, they're latching onto our information and then running with it. And they never had our permission to do that. And we apologize to the public. We don't know what to do and why this is happening. You know, and why, I mean, maybe they think it's just something fun, like, you know, going after Star Trek and, you know, kind of inserting yourself into that, which a lot of people, that's why these shows are very popular, because people all see themselves a part of that storyline. When they look at our content, you know, I had someone say, well, you know, I was looking at this and there's not a whole lot written about it. And I was like, yep, that's right. On purpose. On purpose. We're not here. These are secret programs. Some of them, when I say secret, not like we're withholding it from the public, but if it's going to harm other people by us disclosing certain information, then we're not going to do that. And we have a right to not do that, but that doesn't mean someone has the right to come along and have addendums to our information, which that's another thing that's happening. And it's not just us. I'm positive it's happening with other people.
Yes.
But I have, I don't know, hours and hours and hours of personal information and information of the Andronetalks transmissions, which, you know, is pretty fascinating. Some of the stuff, even I forget some of it. I go back and listen. I'm like, wow, you know, some of this is current. It's happening right now. And then with the ACIO, same thing. We put out the website. We have more information to add on there. I'm nervous to even put it on there, because then now we have another whole thing that the people are going to run away with. And I'm trying to see if we can get to a point where there's some level of respect for our content, and or anyone who has been out there for a while, for people to be honest and acknowledge it. And then if they have something that they want to share your own information. People don't think that their information is interesting. Maybe it is, maybe it's going to, you know, bring in a lot of people. Maybe it won't, but don't take this from that person and read 40 books and then take all their information and then create your own ball of wisdom, you know? I mean, after a while, people are going to say, yeah, but that was this over here and that. What does this mean in the end? It doesn't mean anything. Might have gotten popular for a while, but in the end, people are going to look at it and say, you watered down some critical information and you changed the meaning of it. And that wasn't honest, you know? And so trying to bring in levels of integrity, kindness, respect to other people. Some people say we haven't been respectful. Here again, there's a long history of people not respecting us. And so if we said something after 5 to 7 years later, then, you know, maybe there's a reason. It's, you know, don't have an assumption. And so, but we're going to be more careful going forward in how that's done.
Well, regarding the bleed throughs, I think that people we're trying to wrap their head around, because they automatically, like in the community or whichever the community that's attached, they say they understand the veil, these terms, bleed throughs, pocket reality. They understand all these, but when you say there is a bleed through attached to a person, you think there would be some understanding, but instead emotions take over and they lose sight of what the facts are, and trying to understand, well, what can we do to quelch this, get it taken care of, or do something so that it doesn't harm our reality. That's the path they should be on, instead of all these emotions and attacks and all the negative things that go along with when you're just trying to put out information. So it tells me that they're not doing the work, the discernment to understand what's really going on. And when something is said, the first thing is attack that person. You know, it's like, you know, don't attack the messenger. It's like you need to listen to the message. If someone's bringing forth a truth or some information that's going to help humanity, they need to look at it. Even if they're the center of that information, if you bring to me that you're holding down this pocket reality and this is what's going on, it's causing harm to the West Coast, my first thing to you is, what can I do to shut it down? Can I close it? Will you help me fix this? That's my first thing. My first thing isn't, you know, well, you're full of this. You're saying that I'm harming people who live in the West Coast. I don't go there because my goal or what I want to do, what I'm here is to help people. And if I can get this taken care of, because I know about the harming of innocents, and I've been involved in things which have come to fruition in my dreams or visions, and the programs I was in, and the things that I did. And I know what it's like, and I've seen people being harmed physically. And I was a part of that. And I remember seeing it visually, even though I don't have the 3D physical memory of it. I saw this happen. And it was very sad to me to think that I would hurt someone or be a part of a group that did something like this. And you helped me clear it. Because when it first came out, I was like, you know, I was shocked that I would do something like this. But my next thought was, I need you to help me to fix this. Can we fix this? And that's when information is brought up about individuals or people or groups. That's our first thought should be, how can we help the collective? How can we clear this up and heal and reverse what we did? We have to think along those lines. That's how I see it.
I'm going to insert something here, and thank you for saying that. I appreciate it, because this is why we're supposed to be doing this, it's for the greater good. It's not for bravado or to stand out or be famous or anything like that. It's literally a disseminating of information. Whether you agree or not, like I said, you don't agree, you know, you can change the channel. And of course we would like people to subscribe, but we also, that's not our primary thing. I always came up because I wanted people to be aware. And I'll say that from the beginning. And if I end up with 2 people following me and they understand and they got what they needed and then I'm finished doing whatever I'm doing, and then I'm fine with it, honestly. So all of this other groups of people don't necessarily believe that way. Here's I think part of the problem is I was assuming that people, I was not thinking about some of the new people that had not been following our work and don't understand what we're about. I wasn't thinking about people that don't do spiritual work and don't understand how things operate. And so in part, it was my fault for not laying a groundwork of what there was. And I'll take some of that responsibility, because these are not easy things to wrap your head around, especially if you are a mental learner, someone who has to have the grids and the charts and something that they feel is tangible, even though we were able to prove that when you say something, you talk about something over a length of time, that literally it's something that is tangible, that you can prove it and see it. But there still are naysayers, that don't understand, and those that have not been watching us would not know that about us. So part of that was my oversight. The people that came at us that were most angry kind of surprised me, because it seemed like they come out very confident that they know everything, they understand everything. And I think with some I had talked to for a long period of time, and I still don't think they fully understand it. And what some of the reasons or explanations of what happened and how it happens. And then it even happened while I was interacting with them, where there were other additional bleed throughs that happened related to them. And they were angry. And through their anger, they actually manifested some things that caused some problems. And a few people died in one incident, and another one was related to some of the tensions we're having with war right now. So, and I don't really know what to do beyond that. Some people, you can provide as many facts as possible, but if they are choosing to not acknowledge those facts, I don't really know what to do. But they were the ones that surprised me the most, because they have been going on and on about how spiritual and how knowledgeable they are about super soldiers and how they have a handle on all of it. And I guess that's where we're at this point. And, and also Peter has tried to define certain things. He's done his best to do so. And then there are different categories of things, and that also tripped people up. And I had someone who was actually, had been around for a long time, and even he got confused about, defining what the super soldier was, and how it's separate from some of these MyLab programs. And so he was looking at me and thought it was kind of strange. So, these are the challenges. These are not easy concepts to wrap your head around. This is not, by any means, this is not an excuse of anything, because we don't, that would be a waste of time at this point. But clearly anyone that fully does follow us and understanding the information, we try to do our best to clarify it, but in certain situations, we were not as successful in doing so, or created an aberration, which then actually compiled other problems that occurred. So live and learn, I guess. No one's perfect. Going forward, these things are going to continue happening. I mean, I didn't create this system. I'm not to blame for a lot of these things that are coming through, because I do my own work. You do your work. We're all, there are those of us that really want to do the right thing. There was an individual that I looked at that was setting certain things off in another reality. And I said, we really need to have you talk with Peter. Well, he got back to me and said, please, can we schedule that? And I mean, that's someone that really wants to do their best to help shift this. It may or may not go public. People might never know about it. But the important piece is that there are those that are safe because of it. And that's the important piece to it. And that's all we need.
And I agree with that, because you're at a place where you can see these things because you're an interdimensional seer. And then you're able to tie it to a person. You're sent this information, and contacting this person, say, hey, this is what I see. This is what, can we talk about this so we can get it straightened out or shut it down? And, those are some of the words you've used with me. And I'm like, yes. And if everybody does this, it's for the greater good. It's for all of us. And you're right. It does save a lot of innocence, a lot of people, a lot of aspects. It shuts down portals. It shuts down things from coming into our reality. That's why there's so much chaos, so much running around, and people are saying one thing today, then tomorrow they're saying something else. You can't keep track of all the different narratives where there should only be one, and that's based in the truth.
That's right. We were supposed to encounter a lot more problems than we did, but because even this collective of people that have been listening to us diligently, even whether they agree with us or whether they're there to keep an eye on us, so to speak, whatever their reason is, they can attest to the fact that we do provide certain information, things that are happening. And so then they can take that information and say, we don't agree and we don't want to have this in this reality. And it's a very powerful thing. It's very, very powerful. You have to understand how it works. And then you have to be able to have that communication. Fortunately, with the ACIO, we have the Council of Five and some others, and many members, because the ACIO is very large. But Peter is the primary leader. The one that they have in the forefront, the only one right now. Whether people want to say that they're representing, and they have pulled me in. I came in after Peter, but in a different role, obviously, but we collaborate. So when people saying, oh, I know so-and-so is working with the ACIO, it would be great if they were, or even if they had good intentions to want to help. But, for ego purposes, or just to say that they have a right towards certain pieces of information, they don't necessarily. But like I said, we're here just, right now, the most important part is not necessarily the wing makers, which was instrumental in introducing some of this information. But, as Peter shared, the wing makers was here to remind us that we're verging on some serious problems. So now to resolve some of those problems, he's providing information for people to make choices on a personal and the personal level and a grander scale of the collective. This is not a religion. This is not a belief system. This is consciousness. People talk about going to 5D. If you can't deal with consciousness, responsibility of what you're doing and what you're bringing in, then you're not going to evolve in consciousness. That's just a part of it. Neither Peter or I are perfect by any means. We swear, we say things we probably shouldn't say. We get really frustrated. That there's a lot of flaws in the way that we've presented things at times. But I think that for the most part, people understand. He'll tell everyone, this is bad news. He's the bringer of bad news.
Well, I don't know if it's so that you guys are, flawed. I think the truth is raw. It's straight to the point, and the truth may hurt, but in the end, the truth heals. So, the way you put the information out, however you do it, I can take it. because I have been, and this has nothing to do with spirituality, it has to do with life. I've been lied to. I've been led astray or led along the line into an area of life that was not good for me. So I want the truth, no matter how cold or raw it is. That's what I want, because I can actually function when I have the truth. I can't function with half truths or a little bit of this and that, because I don't have the full picture. So I'd rather you guys give it straight out. And that's me. And it should be for everyone else, because in this political scene, you know, they have people that put the truth out, and they're prosecuted. They're escaping to other countries so that they won't be, placed in prison for treason. You can see these things happen. So people should appreciate and want the truth, and don't kill the messenger. Once again, don't hurt the messenger. You need to listen to the message.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, at this juncture, the truth is really important, or the perspective of information, the data that comes out is something that people should take in, and what they do with it is up to them. But we don't have time to candy coat it and to make it, perfectly politically correct, and which I feel bad about at times. People say, well, why don't you write down like this whole review of everything that Peter said, and explain it there, because in one way it would make him not happy that he wants people to listen to him when he's talking, just as I would want someone to listen to me and not say, well, you don't have to listen to it, here's the crib notes. I don't want to do that. I know people get angry and they say, well, I don't fully understand what's going on. You can read the comments and sort of get an idea. You can move around in the video and get to the point where you think is something that you want to understand. I think he's getting better at explaining certain things, but like I said, it's not perfect by any means. But also, in some ways, I think that's why we're still out there, because even maybe the algorithms don't understand what's being said. I honestly think there's a higher purpose behind all of this, and what's preserved us, being there for these very, very powerful people that are listening to us and are supporting and are doing something with their intentions regarding the information that comes through. I think we have the best audience possible. I mean, I love these people. I think they're very kind, very understanding, and have been through thick and thin with us. And, when people really didn't like a lot of things, or there was a lot of people that wanted to persuade people to not listen to us, and they didn't go with that. They stayed with us. And I have people even from, as I said, back in 2015, where, there were those that wanted me to change my narrative just to fit into whatever their belief system was. And this hasn't been easy. But those that continue to listen, I appreciate them very, very much. And I appreciate those that really want to make a difference, because even though that Peter is, he's 12th division, I'm 6th division, and there are others that are parts of the divisions, Unit 374, and those that have, endured and been with us, we appreciate them. And, even those that have left us, they had a point in time where they contributed and they helped, and we appreciate that as well. And they're going in a different direction. That's fine. But for the most part, we wanted to just be a voice in our corner to let everyone know what was going on. So, as I said, there are those that want to make the difference. Some of them don't believe enough to put themselves out there and say, you're actually doing this and this, and they'll say, oh, okay, well, to them it sounds like fantasy. And then, their life becomes difficult, or they go into some form of disarray. And we told them, You know, we told them that there'd be problems if they didn't fix it. But you know, it's not for everyone. Like I said, we try our best to explain, and I think in the end, the right people, like I said, are going to make the difference. And I think as time goes on and we keep on explaining things, then I'll get there. But meanwhile, we're in active duty. Peter is over in Slovakia. He's holding the line. The other team members are in active duty. I myself am traveling, doing whatever I'm supposed to do at this point. So that makes it even more difficult too, while others are doing presentations to the public and having, interacting with them one-on-one. We're absent. So there's literally no one representing us per se. Peter and I have never been in a public situation where people can approach us and ask us questions. We have literally been on missions the whole time and been doing what we need to do. I've traveled multiple countries. I've done many different things, and I was hoping that, we can get the whole team together and do something, and we've not been able to do that. And we won't do that because I think it's more important that we continue doing our work until things are more safe rather than jumping in at this time.
Right. I agree with you wholeheartedly about that. And at this time, we have there is the helping of humanity, the consciousness, all that stuff should be going on right now because of how our world is in chaos and all the different things that are going on. But there are many who are more concerned about going to conferences. They're sharing each other's books, and they're on a different ego path than the path of helping humanity. And I think those are getting lost. They've lost sight of what we're here for. They've pretty much quarantined themselves into a community or a group, and they confirm each other, and they're doing their own thing. Meanwhile, outside of this group, humanity needs and is calling for help, and they're not seeing that.
Well, on a personal level, I'm okay if people want to do events. I don't. We're the ACIO is not against anyone doing whatever they want to do. If they want to talk about super soldiers, they can. Some people have talked to Peter. They do have a personal message. I have asked them to please separate our information from what other psychics or their belief systems are, just for integrity purposes, and to keep in alignment with what Peter is actually saying and not, and just have that respect for us. I don't mind if people go out and speak publicly. Also, to state that they are working with us is something that's incorrect. We do, we had some soldiers out there sharing their information, but technically there is no one out there coming out and saying, I am a representative of the ACIO. I mean, even though you could say someone was on Unit 374 or someone was on a team of Kruger in the past, then you say that they're part of the team or they have a piece of the information. But from a general, we are, the ACIO is now coming out and representing us. Up to this date, that has not happened. We'll just say it like that. And other people, they can talk as much as they want about super soldiers and some of their experiences and ideas. That's up to them, but they're not necessarily, if they're working with us, they would not be out there right now. We'll just say it like that. That doesn't mean that they didn't have those experiences in the past and they want to talk about that, but they're not on one of our teams right now. We'll say it that way. Okay. And that's the problem we had early on with a certain individual who was, she was going out and putting up charts and talking about how, where the ACIO is, and associating us with this, DARPA and some of these other government agencies, and which was incorrect. And it really was an assumption, and to come out and saying you're representing somebody, even if you don't say it verbally, you're saying it by action, like here we are. I'm going to give you all the information on this organization. Well, you didn't have our permission. You don't represent us. Why are you doing this? Why don't you have your own information? That's my first question.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone sees anything like that, the red light should just go off and say, what's wrong with this person? Why are they assuming that they have a role with the ACIO when they don't? Or with any group. If someone goes out there, say a well-known speaker, and someone says, well, I'm out here for the speaker and I'm talking about all their content right now. And everyone would say, oh, that's wrong. You don't represent that person. That's all we're saying. That's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? Name someone that you can think of that is very popular.
Well, I mentioned his name earlier, Gene Decode. I mean,
all right. So say if someone went out there and said that they're working with Gene Decode is this, and this is the group that he's working with, and all this other information. They have charts up there and showing his affiliation with certain groups that they feel that he's a part of, or someone had written something about him in the past, and so they're going to talk about it publicly. People would be up in arms and they say, wait a minute, he should be here to represent himself.
Right. And they know his work too, especially the people that follow his information. They're like, no, we've never seen you or heard you. This is not correct. They would know.
Yeah, for whatever reason, we have not had people stand up. And even people that worked with us did not confront this individual, this woman, when she was doing this, and maybe because she was intimidating, or they needed her support for something. I'm not really sure what the reason was, but it kind of went downhill from there. So the lack of respect happened probably about 7 years ago. And no one really said anything, and people were it just created so much more confusion and frustration for us, where I had to start putting my foot down and start saying, you can't. And so for that reason, I was told that I'm a gatekeeper. And so I guess I'll take on that name. I will. If people are going to continue to misuse our information, or.
Well, if they're going to make it negative, I would turn it around and make it positive. Say, no, I'm a gatekeeper, and I'm going to make sure the information gets put out correct. And if it's not, I'm going to call it out. That's how
correct.
I see it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what's fair is fair.
Yeah.
And there are people that just are, you want to call them haters or whatever, because they think this is a competitive forum, and it's not supposed to be. It's silly. It's juvenile. And the way I look at it is people that are using our information and then trying to make it their primary focus, they're lacking information themselves. And this is not historic. When you have certain sources that have not proven themselves, that they were there for a while. The ACIO has not been present for many years, so it gave a lot of leeway for speculation, addendums, redefinitions, assumptions, and then all sorts of people claiming to be representatives. And so we understand that too. We can work with that. We're trying to redefine and set that information up. And with the Galactic Talk and Taino show, we were trying to present information that needed to be revisited.
Right.
Old information about the ACIO that was not accurate. And so if people are going to get angry at us for correcting incorrect information, then it's going to have to be their problem, because if it's not true, it's not true.
That's true. And that's true. Yes.
I think they think if they complain or try to bully or try to, troll or do whatever, call us names, that it's going to change the truth of what the history is. And it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. It's a funny time. I mean, I think that we're learning in general how to interact on the internet. People need to understand that, you can have your opinion, you can disagree. Someone can try to explain their point of view and why they said something. But when you're just blasting people with 25 comments under one video, I think that's under the category of a troll.
Troll, anger, all of the above,
Yeah, you're unhinged. You're not in the right state of mind. I think, like I said, you're always going to have people that disagree, but then when it gets to that point where they're just going out of control and don't have, I think it's a wrong way to do things. Yeah, you can bully people off, but that's karma. You like, for someone like us, it's not going to affect us. But there are other people that are more fragile, that are going to be hurt really bad.
Yeah.
And maybe they won't share something that we really needed. That's by true. Those type of attitudes. And some of these people also that are really critical and really harsh are coming up with stuff on their own. And maybe they thought, well, people didn't listen to me, and why should I respect others? I understand that too. And that's something that's a learning process for you. It's not something that everyone else should have to take in, and that people are going to have to, people will dismiss it until it's done the right way. And like I said, they've dismissed me plenty of times. I never said I was perfect in my presentation. We do what we feel we have to do. And we also have that point where it's the end of the rope. And, we just say it's enough. And so then with that, you get frustrated, angry, and you say things. Sometimes you can't take back what you said.
Yeah.
It's like they say, when you're going to send out a text message to something, read it first and then read it again. Think about it, go back and send it out. Especially when you're enraged or angry. And then sometimes you look at it and say, oh, maybe they didn't mean that. Maybe I just kind of went off the hook a little bit. And, sometimes you have to step back a little bit and really take a look. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a learning process. The only thing I can do is continue to explain. Some people might find this redundant. Other people might say, oh, no, we better understand. And there might be others that saying, really, I don't really care. We don't like you anyhow. Mm-hmm. And that's why when I say, well, there's a big world out there, find who you do like instead of bothering people you don't.
Yes.
Do something constructive, have a purpose. All you're doing is perpetuating a lot of bad negative energy back to yourself. It's purposeless in a lot of ways.
But that what you're saying is something that the people who are putting forward the anger or the bad comments, they should know this. Because there's so many, whatever you put out, you get back. What goes around comes around. All these sayings are for a reason, and they can be placed on all the things that they're doing. You're right. If you step back and take a look at it, you're like, I just put these 25 bad comments on here. Saying, just going overboard, saying all this stuff. There comes a point in time where it's going to come back. And people know this, but it's like they're blinded and they don't see that. And then later on, they're trying to figure out why things are happening to them. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, there's definitely repercussions.
Yeah.
And, like I said, when people start making fun of a person's name or whatever, it starts getting into a troll scenario. There are centers that are coming from, different regions, countries, that there are those that are driving the narratives on the internet, and they do send in their trolls.
Yeah.
Through algorithm, and it will, create different problems, and they're very real. Everyone knows this that has done any work online. And so if someone kind of sounds like a troll and acts like a troll, then, you just have to
They are.
have them removed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you never want to replicate that. And also those people that are putting themselves out there, sharing their information, think about how you would like to be talked to and how you would like to be. If someone misunderstood you, do you think it's right someone started attacking and going off the hook, sending 25 to 30 messages that don't make any sense?
Right. Yeah.
Or
Definitely.
just are derogatory, borderline, it gets down to like weird juvenile kind of comments.
Yeah, because I have in this journey have changed, have grown, because there would have been a time, where I would have gone tit for tat, and mostly it's because of the line of work that I was in prior to all of this. But with the comments, I do sometimes I try to explain, but I do realize now, even when I try to explain or to give more information, they don't see all that. They just still going with the comment. So
Yeah.
you just have to let it go, let them, either you keep them there, remove them, because they clog up the comments of the people who understand, the ones that get it, and we want their comments to be shown so that people can see those, because those troll comments, they just kind of clog up the feed, and they're nothing positive about it.
Well, they don't put a lot of money into trolling for no reason. I mean, trolling is effective in manipulating the public.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think others have figured that out as well. So if they can put a bunch of messages in there that are really non-truthful and just really tearing apart an individual and talk about how bad they are and all that, another person goes and looks and says, wow, this person must be really horrible, and you're like, I don't even know if I want to hear what they had to say, but some people look at the comments before they, and so the those in those message centers, they pay them money to be there and just harass people day and night, and create these weird campaigns. And I think that's the whole thing that happened with Twitter, and we could see, I mean, I don't want to get into I guess we can relate it to the political scene and what happened between Biden and Trump. I mean, and how they created this huge hatred towards Trump. And I mean, Donald Trump, who says things very bluntly, and I'm not comparing myself to him in any way, but just using this as an example. But there were certain groups that did not want him to have any presence, and they weren't not necessarily from the United States. And so they're influencing the media, they're influencing social media, which they found out is a very powerful tool. And so these people are learning to replicate some of those behaviors, and because they know how damaging they are. And it's a type of cyberbullying, or trying to remove certain people and cut them out of respectability and so forth, or saying that they're frauds or this and that, and that's a way to get rid of people. And it's not necessarily it's proven or found unfounded information. They have no other reason other than they're angry or dislike, or there's competition involved. So unfortunately, the public doesn't know how to sift through that. It takes some awareness to see that there's something else going on there. Sometimes when I see something's heated, I look at it all the more. I'm like, what was this all about? It can be, you know, a little entertaining, but you can see that certain things are at play, and usually, you know, it's a fight of ego. But, you know, keep in mind too that some of these people that are the hardest are the worst in you know, maybe independently trolling. I won't say, because they're not necessarily paid trolls, but the independent trolls are people that feel least empowered, and suddenly they have a sword. They wield the sword of lies against people they don't like, and they bask in that because they never had any power. They never had any personal power. Some of these people are in situations where they don't feel very strong, or they had bad relationship issues, or they're you know, cut off from family, or they have a lot of personal issues, and then they vent all that on other people that they don't know. And there's a lot of that going on as well. And I felt like some of that was going on when we present certain information. So there are people that if you tell them, if you change or impact their belief system, it does something like, you know, how could you change this? This is something I believed in for years, and now you tell me it's not true. You know, I kind of call that the I don't mean to soften the blow of it, but it's sort of like the Santa Claus syndrome, where, you know, the child finally finds out that there's not a real Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, hopefully I didn't just crash your belief system. But you know what I'm saying? It's yeah. Like that whole thing, like, how could you say that, you know? And I know that I said something once to someone and they didn't talk to me for years. Really? And I just was like, I believe that, you know, Jesus is an extraterrestrial. And they literally would not talk to me. Mm-hmm. Would not talk to me for years. And I was like, what happened? You know what I mean? And what it does something to the belief system, right?
Yeah, it upsets it, because when I first started, you know, in the religious, and I went through that Bible, and I saw it with a different pair of eyes, so to speak. And I saw things that didn't relate or were in there that shouldn't be, and things have been changed. And that's when things started changing or clicking in my mind. Well, if they said this, then how is this true? You know, and I started going back and thinking of all the things that I had been taught. And then I found out, you know, Mom, I think this has not been the truth. There's more to it, or there's lies, or there's things in here that are making me believe a certain way. And it was, you know, that emoji, that it was the emojicon with the mind blown.
Yeah.
That was me, you know, but I didn't stop. I kept going. And the information just kept pouring in until I thought, oh yeah, Jesus, Yeshua, he had to be an ET. How does he do biolocation, you know, changing this? And, you know, there's a lot of things that he does that is explained that way. So it is a whole new part of your mind that has to open up to understand and take that in.
You know, I was hoping that you were going to go into the Santa Claus part of it. This becomes a little bit more complex, right?
Look,
no, with the whole Jesus thing, obviously there's like historical alterations and political agendas that were added to the church, and you know, the original writing was not consistent. There's some of it was in Hebrew, some of it was in Aramaic, some of it was in Greek. You know, so you have like in those that were interpreting it, and then how it was then interpreted into our language. So there's a lot of different components there to pick up. But yeah, like, you know, the abilities that he had does match what we would show as a criteria for someone that has unexplained phenomena, you know. But yeah, no.
Well, I know with the Santa Claus, I have to say this, is I think that I always knew because I have memories because I'm the oldest, sitting with my mom wrapping presents late at night while the other ones were asleep. I'm like, well, what about Santa Claus? And my mom said, Iris, where's Santa Claus? I go, what? She goes, didn't you go to the store with me? Didn't you see me buying these toys? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I just took it in stride. I said, okay, let's keep rapping. So it's like I've always known, I think it was because I was the oldest and I was helping to keep it alive, so to speak, for the three younger ones.
Yeah.
She said,
Yeah.
You're little Miss Claus.
And but it is like people laugh about it and say, oh yeah, we can look back and say, and yeah, I don't know how we believe that there was a Santa, we find gifts or whatever, but think about it. As a young child, it was very hard. Mm-hmm. Thinking, like, wait a minute, my parents lied to me, right? It's the same thing, and with any belief system that is, people, realize it's like disclosure. We'll say talk about disclosure, and people realize, like, wait a minute, our government hasn't been honest with us. It keeps on crashing the belief systems, and there's going to be series after series of dismantling of belief systems over time until we kind of get to a point where we understand. And that's the only way that we're going to pull out of this the system. Not that everything is incorrect, it's just that having the right perspective of what it is. And that's what's going to help us to ascend. Like people said, we're going to bring out disclosure. We're going to bring everyone into 5D. None of this is going to happen without truth and transparency. And people are honest and fair and ethical and having very good levels of consciousness. And nobody's going to be perfect, but I think that people will start to understand more. And then you expand more. I mean, people have told me they hate the idea of reincarnation and past lives. And like, oh, we're going to break that system. Well, that system actually was pretty good. It brought you through a series of events, one event after another, where you learned something very, very important in that lifetime. And that the next lifetime you were completely liberated from it and you explore something else. And we've explored being good and bad, even in our timelines, in our own personal lives. So when you say currently, there's also in these parallel lifetimes, there's different dynamics. One, you have, a child, and then another lifetime, that child is your neighbor, or another one that they're your parent, or another one they're your enemy. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios that play out, and that's why we're coming full circle back to the bleed-throughs. Yes. One of those bleed-throughs comes in, and where unfortunately someone has a lot of power, and they've done some serious things, because in one of those timelines we've had a full-out total war, as Peter talks about. There's nuclear just destruction to the entire earth. Very few survived, if any. And there's people start to adapt and then change according to this weird atmosphere. There's a lot of different scenarios like that are presently happening, are playing out. And that's something that we have to deal with. And Peter, if you listen to some of the earlier shows where he goes off on these missions, and there are some of them that he struggled. Seriously. You can hear the pain of what, just being there and then watching everybody die, and or being in an atmosphere that was so hostile, as far as the environment was ripped apart. The electromagnetic field is gone. radiation is so high and people are burrowing underneath the ground and very few people exist, or all these different scenarios that he's trying to explain to us of what he's actually been to and has seen. And for him to even survive and come back and tell us about it is phenomenal. Yeah. And it's a rare occasion that people get to hear this type of information. It's not fabricated, but because of the role and experience and the high level of military secrecy that he's been involved with, he's able to do these things and bring us back the information regarding it. I personally would not want to go to some of those places he went to. I'm already having problems as it is with radiation and all that. Yeah. And it's not an easy thing to go through, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know that speaking on those places, I have remembered realities where I've come to you and I said, I see myself underground and everyone is dressed like in real dingy. They have, old rag clothes on. It's very dim. And I said, there's things on the door to help to breathe. So these are these realities, these other Earths that are playing out. They exist because we get glimpses of them and we think, oh, I was just in this dream and this was going on. No, you're seeing a piece of a reality that you are part of, and it's a real rough life in that reality that's happening. So I have seen it.
And that's why we're here, because any one of those realities could play out here. And that's why the bleed throughs are something that we don't ignore, because we know if we ignore them, then they start to manifest here and then we're in deep trouble. And so when people say that they have an awareness or they see that something's happening, or they reach out to me, and then, that's something that we can work on.
Right.
And for the betterment of humanity, that we can actually assist in something, because very likely, like you said, you remember it. There are others that remember these kind of dystopian experiences.
Yes.
Because they exist. Mm-hmm. They exist. And just because we seem to be free of it over here, it doesn't mean that it will continue in that direction, because they're warning us with a lot that's happened in
We're
the
getting
past.
glimpses. Those are glimpses of other realities or things that can come here or will come here if we don't take action, so to speak, and to make things right in our reality.
Absolutely. And there's another thing about the corporations. And here's another area, particularly Monarch. We started talking about Monarch way back in around 2016, 2017 with Peter. And he started explaining about how these private corporations are able to utilize time travel. They're going back to maybe the 1800s, steampunk period, moving into the future, working with androids, working with all different types of technologies that we can't hardly fathom here at this time, even as advanced as we are right now. And how they have abducted and taken children, have terribly misused them, have inserted programs in them. And then you see these people going out and saying, hey, I'm part of the Monarch program. And I'm like, what's going on here? Like, why would they brag about being part of something so horrible? Literally saying that I'm part of a Monarch program that is harming children. Like, why would they do that? Other than someone is out there trying to redefine what monarch means. And I know that the movie, talking about monarch, doesn't show anything about children, but it shows like these monsters and these experiments with monsters. And the scientists. But there is absolutely nothing to brag about, saying that you're associated with Monarch, but that seems to be a new trend. And I don't know why. It says something to the universe. It says something to the people. I don't know if they're trying to intimidate people or saying, yeah, well, you know, we're here as scientists, we're going to hurt you, or we're going to take your children. I don't know exactly what they're saying, or they really are completely oblivious and think that this is a program that some psychic told them that they're a part of, and they don't fully understand it. I mean, I've literally seen people take like tarot cards with Monarch on it, and some of our other programs that we talk about, and created a deck. Wow. And then just throwing the cards down like, oh yeah, you're in this program, you're in the, I'm like, no, it doesn't work like that. And only Peter can validate whether or not someone's in those programs. There's no psychics that really know what that is. I don't even say, hey, you know, I say, I believe you're a part of this. I can validate it with Peter. But whatever our content is, it's not a free-for-all for people to just speculate and create a deck of cards, you know, tarot cards, and then start telling people, and then people are like, oh yeah, you must be legitimate, and the ACIO, they're wrong, and we're going to expose them. You know, the same person listening to that, yeah.
It seems like something like that with those tarot cards. It's like softening up these programs. And that should not be. You see what I'm saying? It's like if you can.
It's nothing to play with. It's nothing to play with. Something bad's going to happen out of this.
You have this major corporation that has been consolidated into a little card, and so you're part of this. So, you know, yeah, you're doing this and you're doing that. You know, and it's not like that at all. Wow.
No, that's not how you validate whether the tarot card's not going to bring out. I don't care what title you put on there, what name you put on there. It's not going to validate or explain what that is.
Exactly.
And then, like I said, then the same people are like, I'm going to expose Peter. Expose him from what? From what? Just because, you know, people got it, that there was a group of people that were getting into this fantasy that he was doing things to them. And when I say fantasy, I'm not mocking them in any way, but he didn't do it, you know, just because, you know, it became kind of fun or trendy or something to say that. People saying they see him, and you know, it makes me question, what are you actually looking at? And what are you maneuvering? What are you trying to convince others of? Because, you know, maybe you're not in the circle, so you decided to create a series of mistruths. You know, the way that a young girl or boy would accuse a teacher of some kind of sexual indiscretion of some sort, but there's no proof. But you know that you can ruin that person's career.
Right.
And that's something you really need to think about. That's a very, very bad karma. Yeah, it's really bad, especially.
There have been movies made about just that, what you just said. There've been movies.
Yeah, and you know, from the police perspective.
I've seen people come into custody for that same situation. Yeah. Seen live.
How can a person do anything if they're miles and miles away and haven't said or done anything, or say that, you know, they're there to help you? And yeah, you can twist anything. I could, you know, say, well, someone said something to me and they said I was in this program, so that means that, you know, how dare they? You know, and well, you're not, you know, ready to talk to Peter then in that situation, but that still does not justify saying that he's creepy or he's done anything to you. I mean, that's not ethical. It's not honest.
I think that's
it's an old agenda to get to destroy a person's you know, integrity, to destroy a person's life. I've seen lives destroyed. Men lose their families. I mean, he's a married man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what married man wants his wife to hear that someone was talking to them inappropriately?
You're
and
right.
he was having that conversation. So the effort is to destroy the individual, and it's an old game. been going on for years. It goes back, even the witch trials. They didn't like those people. They went into a frenzy. Young girls, nobody controlled the situation. They didn't sit down with those girls to see what was actually going on. And they would get hysterical off of each other. And then ultimately what it came down to, that those people, the government was able to then take the land from those people that they called a witch.
Right.
And similarly, if they get rid of Peter, they think that they can then take the website or the content. And I'll tell you something. I've had more than one person thinking that they can take the website. I have no idea what is going on in the minds of these people, but it's like, so you want my website? Do you want my house? Do you want my car? Is there anything else that you think that I need to give you? I mean, what makes you think that we're supposed to give you these things?
Right.
And so if they can't do it honestly, they're going to do it very dishonestly, and they're going to make themselves look like victims, and then it's going to snowball. And so it's an old game. It's an old trick. I've seen it plenty of times. People don't always win. But it is an old tactic of how to take from other people without earning it, you know. And instead of just earning and creating your own, you have to be dishonest and try to take from others. So that's also, you know, something else. I don't know. I mean, like I said, you're dealing with the public is the public, and they're not going to change. I definitely want to be a part of making sure that there's always a witness and there's others involved, in, you know, in any of the information going forward. And people really need to feel ashamed for some of the things that they've done or tried to do.
Well, you know, that is a thing now, that whenever you put out information, you know, well, where are the receipts? Can I get the link? Who told you this? Can I get their link? You know, that's instead of using discernment or learning information, studying and researching, so that when something is said, you automatically know this is not right. This doesn't sound right. They want you to give them your work, your link, your information, how you came to this conclusion. But a lot of this is work that they have to do on their own, because the answers come from inside them. We're just, or you guys are just giving them, you know, I'm giving you 3 sentences. You need to find the rest of the paragraph. You know, it comes from within inside you. You have to find the truth of it, discernment, all of that stuff that everyone talks about is actually something that should be done.
Yeah, I mean, this, like I said, this personal responsibility. Yeah. And like I said, it's not everything is for everyone.
Right.
What we put out is not for everyone, and there are other sites the same thing. You know, people say to me, well, you know, what do you think about this one? What do you think? I don't think about anything. That's up for the, you know, it's up to them. You know, and it's whether or not you want to follow them, but we're not the same. They would probably say the same thing about us. You know, just to have different people out there posting information. But if someone says, you know, I know you did this, this, and this, and if you really trust and believe that person, then that's your choice. Don't blame us for that. And then if they want to include our name into that storyline, then my question is why? Especially if we're not around these people.
Right.
I mean, you can, you know, say, you know, we're the bad guys, and so now you have a community that has decided that we're the bad ones because we provide the information that is a little bit, you know, it's truthful, and these are things that are happening, or we have the website talking about these things. So now in every storyline, somehow or another, we're the ones that were doing something bad to these individuals when we weren't.
Right.
But it's like I said, it's a tactic from the witch trials. And think about it, and if you have a conversation with Peter, he'd probably say it's ridiculous. Like, why do you think, first of all, why do you think I'm that interested in you? If I don't even know you. And then why do you think I have the time to be focused on doing these pitiful, ridiculous things, or even horrible things, when I've talked to everything against it? Like, what is your purpose? And why are you doing this? And why don't you find someone else to demonize,
Yeah. I
personally don't have time to be focused on people like that. And if they're sitting around focusing on us, they really have nothing else to do. What is their purpose? Do they have a purpose? Because if you have a purpose, you don't have time to gossip and complain and whine about things when you should just be taking care of things in your own life.
Yes.
That's responsibility. That's being chore. And like I said, I don't know any purpose of why someone like Peter would come out just and then talk about everything that is bad, and then he's never said that he did any of that, but it's like shooting the messenger. But most people understand that.
Yeah.
Apparently there's a good portion of the people that don't. I don't know why. I don't understand that. It's like a weird witch trial kind of phenomenon. We don't have time. We don't have any time to be wasting on things like this. And like I said, their imagination is that if they get rid of me and Peter as a personality, because they have a set of names for me too, like I'm controlling him and I'm seducing him and I'm doing all these other things, which is also offensive to his wife.
Yeah.
And another thing that I've told Peter, I said, not for anything. I said, when you become well known by people, it to some people it's appealing. It's just the opposite. So I've had multiple male hosts since I started doing radio around 2012 or so, and I did paranormal, and there was a gentleman that I did a show with, and he was, I don't know, maybe big guy, about like 300 pounds or so, and really nice, happily married, had a beautiful child. He was just really, really happy, loved doing his work, loved reaching out to people. And then women were contacting him with no clothes on or inappropriate. And there were, he didn't know what was going on. And then before you know it, he's getting a divorce.
Oh, wow.
And then people were telling his wife that's Jessica is his radio wife. And I'm like, why would people say so? Just because you're having a conversation with someone on a show, automatically the assumption is that you're in a relationship?
Well, when you said radio wife, that was a term where I worked. And if you think about it, other work environments, oh, this is my work wife.
Yeah.
That's where that term comes from.
Yeah. And I mean, every single host that I've had, people have asked or have reacted in a way as if there's some kind of relationship beyond friendship. Just the assumption that because you see a male and a female together.
It's an insinuation that a male and a female cannot have a friendship relationship. It always has to be something else. And they're always looking for something.
I knew this guy that I was invited to be on his show every now and then, but he invited other people on, and he was a very tall guy. His name was Max Steele, and some people will remember him, some people won't. And literally women were throwing themselves at him. It was crazy. And he had a wife, and he would get in arguments with her. I mean, it literally, it's like people would destroy the relationship. But they also would act as if there was something between us or try to feed that into his wife. And I wasn't on there all the time. And I finally just pulled away. I said, I don't want to participate in this.
Right.
And they said, we know you haven't done anything. I said, I would never do anything.
Right.
I mean, but like, that kind of stuff is out there as well, and I think, I don't know how to call it, but it's all like this groupie kind of thing where people want to see themselves with that individual. They fantasize, they listen to them and they fantasize, or they think that there's something else there because you're having a conversation with this, and they see the conversations going on, and maybe they find that person very interesting, and they think they're powerful. They think they have certain abilities, and they want to be a part of it. And that's another side of things. But I've seen this for years. And like I said, it's not necessarily, someone so attractive or whatever. It really sometimes has nothing to do with that. It's just that they find that person very, very appealing or whatever. But it's not an easy thing for relationships. I'll say it like that.
Right. Okay.
And I find it more females than males do that.
Oh yeah, females.
But and anyhow, there's so many different things to look at, and I don't think I've ever really talked about a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's something that you kind of go through, and like it says, but it's something that probably people should talk about more, because I think certain shows have ended for reasons like that, like as if that there was something more about it. And what I do is I always respect parameters, like when I'm working with people, because I don't blame anyone that they would feel uncomfortable if someone's talking all the time to their spouse or whatever. But you have to have levels of respect and parameters, and understand that in the end of the day that they have someone that they care about very much, and you never want to ruin that. And so try to keep it on a very, very professional level. But I have lost I've ended shows with people in the past, at least 3 or 4 shows in the past, for that specific reason, is because of the public and kind of turning something into something that is not, and so forth.
Yeah, it's usurping the message and inserting, situations that don't even exist, just because there's a male and a female.
Yeah, and the male, particularly, like I said, that the problem with, and people have said, you just have men on your team. We had, brought in more females, and it starts to go a little, it gets weird very fast. And that's with not just the team, but even other groups that I've had, where then it starts to become like, potential dating for them.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. And I had someone in the past say to me that that you're the only female and all the rest are male. And I said, and my response was, I don't blame her. Like, what are you talking about? I said, everything is fine. And once you start, and I'm female myself, but I have seen it over my years of experience. And you get too many females or certain females in there, and it upsets the whole friendships. The everything gets turned upside down. And that's what I told this person. I said, I don't blame her. I said, because if there were more females in there, their problems would start. Well, what do you mean? You said, yeah, I said, females inherently, when there's that male, you got a group of males, they come in, they mess everything up. I said, I know it. I've seen it. I've watched it from beginning to end. I'm a female, but I know it happens and I've seen it. So that's what I told him. I said, I don't blame her. I wouldn't bring no females in either. And that's me talking straight out,
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are professional females, and I know that. And I know that you could bring them in and they would be fine. But we have not come to a point where Peter said that person's definitely on the team. And they meet all the criteria, like they actually like Peter. There's some of the women don't even like me at all. They, just don't like me. They listen to me, but they never really had personal conversations. And you can tell it right away. So then what's my incentive for bringing that person in? There isn't a whole lot. I don't need that headache. And we really need to stick with business. And business is very, very serious, and it's very intense. And there are times when we have to stop everything and have a call and discuss, what our situation is. And we don't have time with, any type of catty behavior or anything like that, or even sneaky, anything like. And I'm not saying I have a lot of female friends. I have a lot of female friends, but we just have not found the right ones. If there were females to come in to be there, and clearly the merge there's quite a few females, and they're operating on the other end of Peter, and he knows how to manage that, and that's fine with me. So, but it's been difficult in that area, and I know that people don't like it, but we have to do, whatever it is to keep things moving. And there are people that, Peter said, well, they're probably working on the team, and it turns out that they didn't even like Peter. And I was like, I don't know how bad that would be, but I did have another group, and then we had this woman in there, and she kept on trying to contact the men independently, and even the ones that were kind of shy, and saying some things like challenging them to talk with her. And then the conversations would go into, something on a personal level. And so, yeah, I just had some really weird experiences in that area. And that the individuals would reach out to me and say, I don't know what to do, but she keeps on wanting to contact me, and I don't feel comfortable, and I'm just here to be a part of your group, And so, that some people become aggressive, and I know that males can do that too. But so that's what I said, and changes the dynamic. Whereas, we're talking business and also respectful towards some of these people that are on the team are married, and having respect for that. And if they say their wives are there, they need to do something with their family, having complete respect for that part of their life, and not interfering with anything ever, supporting their relationship, not ever saying if even if the wife disagrees with their involvement with us, being sensitive to that as much as possible is something that's very important. But like I said, these are topics that we've never really discussed. Peter's usually right to business, and we never really get into it. But I know that this is like a good Q&A to go over some of the different challenges that I've had over the years. And like I said, 2012 was when I started radio, and boy, have I learned quite a bit. And, even in college, I was running the radio station. So there's a lot that can happen, in a dynamic and dramas and all sorts. And we see that playing out. And I'm hoping that eventually some of that stops, and people start to see that these behaviors are not conducive to anything that's good, and it won't end well, But anything else that you want to ask before we finish this?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, believe it or not. This is actually a good conversation, and it got pulled a lot of information out, different thought processes, things that haven't been said came out, and I think people it'll, not the word enlighten, but it'll be like, aha, so those things do happen. I've never heard this. These things do go on. And it's more of turns into a balancing, with the family, with our mission, with the people and the groups and everything. So it's all about balancing and respecting each other and that person's life and things that they're going through. So that's what I have to say.
Thank you. Thanks for asking. I mean, not many people really ask. There are a lot of people that probably just go right into, what's going on in current events right now. And a lot of people, that I have heard like rumors here and there, people complaining about different things in the past. So, the dynamic of the teams and, who represents us and what they're doing with the information. I think this is perfect because it helped me to kind of share some things that I've not been able to do it. And you're the perfect person to do it with because you're probably one of the easiest person to talk to.
Well, thank you. And I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, you make a good interviewer.
Okay. Let me write down some more questions. You have to go with that flow, so I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a natural thing, but thanks a lot.
You have been listening to Andronetalks Radio. Join us on YouTube channel Jessica Arael Morocco and visit her website at www.readingsbyarael.com.